Hi, I'm Chanel. Following Manx Radio's budget programme last week, I caught up with some of the union leaders on their views of the 2024-25 financial plan.
Debbie Halsall, Regional Officer of Unite the Union.
And Mick Hewer, National Negotiations Officer for Prospect Trade Union.
Geraldine O'Neill, Local Negotiating Secretary for the NASUWT.
Right now, you guys have come out to Manx Radio's budget programme. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important for government to engage proactively and positively with trade unions. But what we've seen actually from both the Treasury Minister and the Chief Minister, unfortunately more so from the Chief Minister, is they view the views of the unions to be they're totally against the views of the union and are not taking on board what we're saying about those of our members who are in the squeeze middle. And the squeeze middle are the people that we represent. So personal attacks on us are not really helpful. We're here as a voice for our members, not as individuals.
Yeah, and I echo what Geraldine was saying earlier in her interviews, that there needs to be some more engagement. It would certainly be useful if we can take part in the debates and the talks prior to the budget being written and published, rather than being invited to events after the budget has been delivered.
And fundamentally what you want to see is good industrial relations, and we don't see that. I think one of the things is they can say that this is what we do, there's a talk shop and we'll do this, and there's no action. So when I asked the Chief Minister and the Treasury Minister who's accountable, and I'll still stand by my words, he needs to resign, irrespective, and that's not personal, that is literally what is the function of a Chief Minister on this island. We have seen what has happened in the other islands of Jersey and Guernsey, and let that be. What I also reiterated was, as we represent both the public and the private sector, the voice that I am facilitating, the membership is clear. The middle is being dragged into the bottom. There could have been, we had the problems were there, we came with solutions, but they were not to be listened to. One of the things is, why have they still stayed at 14.5 for the personal allowance? Why could they not up that to at least 19? It would have given some resolution to something. But whilst they sit and detract and talk about the plan, there would be no plan in place if they don't basically listen to the people who know what they're talking about. And that is our membership. Trade unions are here for a reason, and we ain't going away.
Now, Debbie, if I can take you back, when you first addressed the Chief Minister, you did question his position.
Yeah.
Is that what the feeling's like on the ground?
Yes. It's just sugar-coated. That's all it is. So whilst he comes out and one of the questions, there was many questions tabled, and he basically kept referring to the plan, the island plan. Well, tell us what that is. Engage with the trade unions in a positive, constructive manner. Don't sit there and then retaliate when a question is being asked in a meeting which was formulated on goodwill. We were invited as regards to the position of trade unions, not to be sit there and basically not have the ability to recourse his comments and the Treasury Minister's comments, and then it was moved away.
Geraldine, yes.
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate what Debbie has said there. I started, my questioning there on a positive note, and asked the Treasury Minister to invite us as stakeholders to discussions on the new tax regime they're looking at or whatever. And we did not get a direct answer. So I'm putting that invitation out again on Manx Radio. Engage with us, talk to us, so we can see something that's fair and equitable, that we who represent the workers of this island, the middle group and the lower groups, as Debbie does, that they are going to have a future that's sustainable on the Isle of Man. The squeeze middle that they're talking about is not just the levels that the Treasury Minister spoke about. It goes much higher than that. And I think it's absolutely insulting to say, well, we're not here to talk about the cost of living, etc. I listened to UK television this morning. They still have a cost of living allowance there for people. They are bringing down energy prices because of the cost of living. Here, it's give with one hand and take with another. And what we have in terms of the public services, and again, I think the Chief Minister's comments were derogatory about the public service, is we have a below inflation pay increase, a below inflation pay increase, along with the cost of mortgages spiralling, the cost of rent spiralling, the cost of rates spiralling, the cost of childcare spiralling, the cost of fuel, not able to afford it. Food has gone up. Some basic items, not luxury items, have gone up 100%. 100%. And it's all very well people in glass towers telling others that they'll have enough to live on. Again, I will provide the Chief Minister with the squeeze middle statistics on how these people are managing, not his nice ones that he's picked out of a cherry pick to demonstrate what he wants to demonstrate.
How optimistic, I know you guys have called on for them to talk to the unions, engage with the unions. How optimistic are you that moving forward they would?
In terms of the budget and in terms of this process, I'm not optimistic at all. I don't think that we'll get invited to any pre-budget talks. I think that the budget will be written and it will be published and presented in Tynwald with no involvement whatsoever from the trade unions. And that was what I was trying to allude to in the question that I asked about the perception that there's an increase in budget for Manx Care. Is it an increase in budget, or is it just giving them the money to stop them going overspent next year and balancing the books? There's no extra money for improving services. It's just about giving Manx Care money to maintain services, and there's a big difference. And that's what I was trying to get out of the question that I asked. And the second question that I asked about the pay awards was very specific on purpose, because as far as our members are concerned, anything that's equal to or below inflation is a pay cut in real terms, and they're telling us that they've just had a 2% increase in tax. As far as they're concerned, 2024 they're entering that 2% down on before we start with anything else. That's without the cost of living, and it's okay saying that inflation's falling. It's the rate of inflation. Till you get into negative inflation, in real terms, people's take-home pay and the effect of that in their pockets is going backwards. Prices have gone up. Last year they were going up on average about 10%, at the highest point just over 10%. Those prices are still high, so it's the rate at which prices are still going up. They're not coming down. Select areas are coming down, and that's what they've picked on. But overall, you go shopping, you get less for your £100 this year than you did last year and the year before. And that's a fact of life, and that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed by way of restorative pay awards.
I think I've got everything I need. Anything you guys would like to add or say?
Yeah. Also, while they make the funding a more robust funding for Manx Care, can you tell me why they're not delivering on the services provided? So why there's no dentists? Why is 4,500 people waiting for dentists? Why is there no GP services as regards to telephone calls? Why is it that these are still here? So they're parameters of this is what we are to deliver. Why are they not delivering on that? And it's very easy for any chief officer or whatever or minister to turn around and say the unions are to blame. No, it's not. No, it's not. So they need to be accountable. He is the custodian. They are the custodians of this purse. They need to act. And if they don't act, they will have a short term, because the people out there will speak. And when they speak, they will not be silenced.
I would just like to say I think that it's really important for us as trade unions, as representatives of public and private sector, that we have a voice together with the third sector. Most of the things that the gentleman in the third sector spoke about, the people who are coming to the food bank, many of those are our members. These are middle income people who are going there who cannot feed their family. All of this needs joined up holistic thinking. What we see here are small little parcels of things which do not join up with a holistic policy that actually will keep the people who live on the island at the moment able to live and stay here and attract other people to come to the island.
And on that, the door is always open from the trade unions to have conversations.
In response to the claims made by the unions, Treasury Minister Alex Allinson says there's already open dialogue between himself and the union, but admits there's room for improvement. He spoke to Lewis Foster and Ben Hartley on Manx Radio's Breakfast.
8:10 now, and in the last hour we heard from trade union leaders on the Isle of Man calling for government to have open conversations with them about financial matters such as the budget and the new tax strategy, saying the door is always open and they're calling for joined-up thinking. Well, Treasury Minister Dr. Alex Allinson joins us live in the studio. Good morning. Will you be accepting that invitation from the unions?
Well, more of mine. Thanks very much for inviting me in. I think there was some surprising language there, but this was an interview done last Friday after a fairly intensive 2-hour live broadcast. And I think what the three people will have had a chance to do is look at the budget, look at some of the things underneath the headlines and see that actually it proves a massive investment into health and education, those very public services that they're supporting and the government supports as well.
Do you think that the input from unions is valuable? You mentioned that it was after that show on Friday, spirits might have been quite high, but do you think their points are valid?
I mean, what government do is talk to all representatives, whether that's from trade unions, other employee representation and employers as well. So, for instance, in terms of education, I know in my previous role as Education Minister, we met with all 4 of the unions, obviously Geraldine O'Neill's the representative of NASUWT, who unfortunately are the only one of the 4 who was still in dispute with the department. But we met with all 4 unions on a regular basis talking about policy and strategy. And that's ongoing. And former Minister Julie Edge was extremely engaged with the unions. And that's shown by some of the significant pay increases they've had to improve recruitment and retention. So we do talk to the unions. We do talk on a regular basis. One of the things I did when I came into Treasury was invite both Mick Hewer and Debbie Halsall into the office to talk to them. It's a shame that they didn't take up that offer last year in terms of coming in as we were devising this budget. But there is that two-way dialogue with both them and the employees of people like the Chamber of Commerce.
Any plans to meet with the unions in the coming weeks? Perhaps the Chief Minister has been accused of not listening to the Manx public. Is that an area you two believe you could improve on?
Well, you can always have better communication, but I think that the Chief Minister, when he was on this show yesterday, clearly set out that of all the administrations, I think we do more in terms of going out to listen to people, to hear their voice. I did a public meeting on Monday night. He said he's going to be going around the island. Actually, when you look back to the start of this administration with the Island Plan, all the ministers were going out to all the corners of this nation asking people for their ideas, and they were fed into the Island Plan. So there's a huge amount of listening there. But what this administration needs to do at this point in the political cycle is actually deliver on the promises of the Island Plan and the economic strategy. And we're seeing that already in terms of simple things like the number of planning applications that have been seen even this week about new housing. Because one of the things that came out of the public meeting on Monday was housing, was affordable, accessible housing on the Isle of Man for the people who are here and also for the people we want to invite to come over and join our community.
Minister, we've had a text in from a listener, Ian, who says, hi there, I very much think the present government have lost touch with the majority of the population. They appear to think small sound bites are sufficient to appease the population when there are genuine concerns over how all sorts of people will cope financially, not just those on benefits. So what do you say in response to that? Do you think you do just offer sound bites? Do we need more than that? I mean, how do you sort of allay these fears? Because we have texts like this from listeners who really are genuinely concerned about the financial situation at the moment.
Well, and so am I. And so the whole idea of this budget was sustainable finances, because we can't carry on drawing down on reserves. I mean, one of the comments made by Debbie Halsall was why we didn't increase the threshold of the 20% tax rate. If we'd have increased that up to 18,500 from 14,500, it would have cost an extra 35 million drawing down from reserves. This is a responsible budget. But in light of those comments, we spent 2 hours live on Friday. This isn't about a soundbite administration. We have very lengthy debates in Tynwald that I'm very grateful for you broadcasting. We will come on the radio shows like this. We will go out to the community. And again, at the end of the day, we are all constituency MHKs as well. We all run surgeries. We all listen to our constituents and listen to the people of the Isle of Man.
You said on Friday the median earner in the so-called squeezed middle earns around £35,000. Where exactly then does the squeezed middle start?
Again, that depends on your perspective. I think when you look at the median earnings on the Isle of Man, they're about £35,000. Lots of people have been affected by the inflationary pressures we've seen over the last couple of years. Government has been affected, which is why our costs have gone up and why we needed that balanced budget, which this budget actually provides for. When you look at some of those people we're talking about, a jointly assessed couple on £50,000 a year with 2 children will be £454 better off with this budget. Single parents with 2 children earning £30,000 will be £1,433 better off because of the extra money we put into child benefit, because of the extra money we're putting into childcare as well. And even a pensioner who's earning £45,000 a year will still be £283 better off. However, we know that those people who, a single person just scraping by on £35,000 will be worse off by about £3.70 a week. What we're saying, though, is that the increased 2% on the upper rate of tax is being ring-fenced for our NHS. It's being invested in the future of the health of our nation. And I think that's really important. And it'll be interesting to see how Jeremy Hunt responds to the similar challenges that are faced by the adjacent Isle in his budget next week.
Of course, we'll keep a close eye on that. So we're a week on now from our budget. We've had a huge response, a mixed response, it has to be said. You've had time to sort of just to get your head around exactly how people have responded. How do you feel, Minister, a week on, exactly how your budget has been received? How do you feel about that?
This is a difficult budget in difficult economic times, but it charts a future whereby we have certainty, sustained finances, and also that stability that we need. It is difficult for a lot of people on this island. I completely appreciate that, but I hope that when they go underneath the headlines and look at some of the substance of this budget, the long-term planning that goes into it, the way that we've committed to looking at tax thresholds and child benefit thresholds going forward in next year's budget, we can actually rebuild our economy, rebuild the finances of the Isle of Man after 3 years of it taking a battering, and get back onto a far more sustained path for the future economic development of the island.
And just finally, Minister, we heard from Geraldine O'Neill from the NASUWT before. Do you accept or perhaps even believe that some members of that union or the squeezed middle perhaps will sometimes need to rely on food banks?
When I was Education Minister, there was a case that came to my attention who was a teacher who'd just come over to the Isle of Man. They were paying rent here. They were still paying a mortgage across. They hadn't got their pay up front, and they were in dire straits. The help is there, though. If a teacher is finding that they're being financially challenged, go and talk to your head teacher. There are ways we can supplement your income, bring the payments forward. We have a very well-developed social security system here.
So that claim is plausible?
I know of one case, and if she has other cases of members of her union who are finding it incredibly difficult to make finances meet, please reach out to the social security sector. We have a whole range of benefits that we've absolutely boosted in this budget, and we can deal with them on an individual basis. But at the same time, we have significantly increased teachers' pay, and if people are falling through the gaps in the system, talk to your head teacher, talk to social security. We will deal with that problem and help you.
Treasury Minister Dr. Alex Allinson, Gurmayed.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.